What's up, guys, and welcome back to DeeterPlays, and this is the next episode of the Loomian PvP overview series. This one, we are going to talk about the Falkyrie. This is another one of the starters. We're going to talk about its effectiveness, things it's strong against, things it's weak against, the best move set, the best personality types, and the best items to try and hold, and also go over what we've got for secret abilities. So this one, we're just going to get right into it. The Falkyrie. It has no actual major weaknesses. As far as its general weaknesses, it's weak against dark, electric, and earth, and it's also resistant or kind of strong against other light, air type, bug type, and typeless. It is really resistant against ancient, so this is definitely a good one to pull out if someone pulls out like an Obsidian in battle. And also, it is completely immune to spirit moves. So if somebody's trying to hit you with a spirit move like a Vesperatu or a Dusket or something, then that is not going to be effective at all. Then, of course, it has normal effectiveness against all of the other types. Now, we're going to go into, this is a light and a metal type Loomian itself. So those are where it has its basic strengths. So if you have the normal ability that goes with it, any light or metal type moves like the Gamma Pulse or the Holy Slash, those are enhanced quite a bit from 25% to 40%. Now we've also got a special hidden ability that is possible for this one. It is called Applied Frustration. So with the Applied Frustration, what happens is when the stats are lowered, the ranged attack stat will increase. So that is going to be something important that we're going to talk about for the basic configuration for this guy. So let's take a look at the base stats and see what the base stats are and see what kind of moves are good for that and what kind of training will enhance or help kind of make this a little bit of a stronger Loomian in battle. So most of the things are average there. You can see the ranged attack is super high. Ranged attack is at 125 on average. Now that is the average stats, this little bar graph on the left, that is the average. You can see over on the right side there is a pretty wide range. Like the minimum range you can see is from 0 TP, 0 UP stats, and a hindering personality for that particular attribute. And then the maximum stats would be 200 TP training, 40 UP stats, and a helpful personality for that particular attribute as well. So there is actually quite a range that these can have, but the averages right there, you can see the ranged attack average on the base stats is quite a bit higher. So obviously it's recommended that we want to make this a ranged attack type of Loomian and have it kind of specialize in that. So we're going to go over the ranged attack moves. We're going to focus on that. I'm also going to show you a quick configuration for a melee attack one. So you might want to have one of those in your bag, like a second one that just kind of focuses on that. And we'll show you the stats and the recommended move set for that. But right now, what we're going to focus on, and the main one I recommend for this, is to take advantage of its strengths and use ranged attacks. So given that we want to use ranged attacks for this one, what I'd recommend is, if you can, try to get that hidden ability, that Applied Frustration. That is going to help with your ranged offensive moves, especially if somebody tries to hurt you with one of their moves that would end up lowering your stats. So instead of lowering your stats, what they do is they just increase your range. So as far as what moves we should do, so we're going to focus on one that is going to be a ranged machine. So for a ranged machine, the move set that I would recommend is Raging Howl, Air Blade, Gamma Pulse, and Power Focus. That Power Focus is going to make all of your moves, ranged or melee, much stronger. So you go in there, you've already got a really high ranged attack, you use Power Focus, and then you've got these three moves, Gamma Pulse, Air Blade, and Raging Howl, that can all do a lot of damage. And you've got an air option, you've got a light option, and you've got a typeless option. Now that Raging Howl is going to hurt you a little bit because it's one of those attacks that when you do it, you kind of like hurt yourself because it's reckless, but it is really strong. It's 120 hits. Or hit power, so that strength on it is pretty strong. So it's good to have that one. And with everything else, the training, if you've got the hidden ability, and then you've got your training up to 200 TP on the range attack, then I would recommend 200 on the speed and 100 on the health. I know the melee attack is really low, but the health sort of is a bit of a defensive thing that you can kind of make both of your stats go up a little bit. It's more of a universal defensive move to, or stat that you want to increase. So I would recommend 200 rage attack, 200 on the speed, because the speed is not great on this one, but if you work on the speed, you can actually do better against some other things that maybe not trained on speed. So even though it is kind of a disadvantage, I think you can kind of fix that disadvantage just a little bit. And also, if you wanted to go for personality types, you could also focus on the range attack, or you could try to focus on the speed a little bit more and try to get that up. So I would say smart, because smart is going to help you with the range attack, or nimble, that's what's going to help you with the speed. But if you end up having one that has a hidden ability, you've got a TP trained in range attack, you've got all the range set up, you've got smart, and someone's tried to lower your stat with a hidden ability, like this thing is going to hit so hard with its range moves, it is just going to be a sweeper. So that is what I would recommend. You go 200 attack, 200 speed, 100 health, Raging Howl, Air Blade, Gamma Pulse, Power Focus, and if you can get the smart trait, that would be good. As far as items, you could use a light essence, or actually a typeless essence, or even an air essence, and then any of those moves, the Raging Howl, Air Blade, or the Gamma Pulse, would be much stronger if you get that help. I would recommend the typeless, just because the Raging Howl is so strong as it is. If you can just get a little bit more strength on it, it is a pretty broad move, and it can be applied to many different types of Loomians and do a fair amount of damage, at least a one-to-one. You know, there's not too many things that are going to be resistant to it, so I would recommend get that Raging Howl and make it super strong. But of course, just like I talked about, if you really wanted to, and you wanted to get your melee moves going for this the Falkyrie, you can train it to 200 on the melee attack, and then 200 on the speed, and 100 on the health. And the move set for that would actually be Holy Slash, Nosedive, Raging Howl, and Power Focus. So those would be, we've got a couple of close moves there, the Raging Slash and the Nosedive. Those can be really strong moves. Like a Nosedive can come in and you can hit a Tatab and it can do quite a bit of damage. The Holy Slash can do a lot of damage too, plus it's a metal move, so it's going to have even more effect from the Falkyrie. The Raging Howl, still, it's a ranged move, but it is also really strong. And you want to utilize the fact that like the base stats for the range attack are really good, and if you go for a melee machine in here and you try to train it for that, then you're kind of wasting the fact that it has that strength there. But if you keep a Raging Howl in there, you still sort of utilize the fact that it has really good strong range moves for its base stats. Now, as far as Falkyrie goes in battle, it can be very useful, but mostly against, let's see, as far as the starters go, it does pretty good against a Vesperatu. It can handle a Zulong, it can one-hit an Umbrat, all of those with a Gamma Pulse, which I'd recommend. Again, another reason to make this a ranged attack configuration, because it's the Gamma Pulse move that really does a lot. And of course, that Raging Howl is going to be useful for you as well. And with the Raging Howl, it does make it a little bit more effective, like possibly more effective against certain things like the Serenite and Luminami and the Tatab and the Falkyrie. Like, you can do more against that now because of these rally moves. Like the Nosedive, if you go for a close one, a melee attack version, then you can hit that Tatab with a Nosedive pretty hard, when generally the Cyclone Slam didn't really do as much. But the Falkyrie, it doesn't generally do as well against the starters, except for like the Vesperatu and the Zulong. It does really well against the things that you'll find out in the wild. The Gamma Pulse actually is a pretty effective move against a lot of the wild Loomians, but if you're going up against most of the starters, it's not the most effective, so that's why you don't see a lot of people actually using the Falkyrie, because there's so many meta teams out there, and these meta teams have, you know, they've got the Serenite, they've got a they've got a Himber, you know, they've got a Tatab, they've got a Luminami, and the Falkyrie isn't really that strong against those ones. It can be really strong against the Zulong. It does have a really effective move, the Gamma Pulse, against the Zulong, but then the Zulong itself can hit pretty hard with a Thunder Strike against the Falkyrie, and it may be able to take it out before it even gets a chance. So as a little bit of a overall, what we're going to recommend here is I would definitely recommend a ranged attack type of configuration. Get Raging Howl, get Air Blade, get Gamma Pulse, get the power focus, try to get yourself a secret ability that is smart as well. If you can get one that's smart and has a secret ability, then that is going to be very, very useful to you. If it's frail, it doesn't really matter because that is kind of the melee attack, and if you're not really focusing on the melee attacks, then smart and frail is just fine. Or if it's smart, nimble, and frail when the next totems come, then hopefully that would just be the perfect, that would be the perfect configuration right there, and you've got yourself a really, really tough range move. Make sure you get 200 on the range attack, 200 on the speed, 100 on the health, and if you can, I would just recommend holding a typeless essence, honestly. Anything else can be pretty useful, you know, power cuffs, anything that kind of makes the other moves even stronger. But I would recommend typeless just to make that Raging Howl even stronger. But remember, guys, that Raging Howl, even though it's super strong and it can be used broadly across the board, it is going to end up doing a little bit of damage because it is one of those moves where it is reckless. Alright, so if you guys are new here, I would love to have you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and we will talk to you guys later.